Welcome to this HelloID webinar brought to you by Tools Forever. Today we'd like to give you an overview of the new functionality in HelloID. We encourage you to ask questions. You can do this via the WebEx chat option. You can find the option here. At the end of the demonstration, your questions will be answered. I'd like to turn this over to Tjeerd Seinen, HelloID Product Manager. He will explain and demonstrate the new HelloID functionality. Enjoy, and don't forget to post the questions.
Jamie, thank you for the introduction. So today it has been silent for a couple of months. Last webinar I looked it up was January this year, and now we're going to pick it up again, and I will do the webinar every month. So this is the webinar for the release of June. It's a little bit delayed because of the 4th of July last week for the USA. So we do it 1 week later than normal. That's today, the 12th of July. So what I'd like to cover is the new functionality that we have released, and I also like to show you new functionality that we are going to release later on for provisioning, and I want to give you a global overview of the roadmap we're going to do. Okay, so I have a PowerPoint presentation, and I definitely will demo you some software. This is what I already said. I like to cover the release, I like to demo the release and provisioning, and I want to present you the global roadmap. Okay, so the release for what we have released in June is we have added base 64, and now we can encode and decode the attributes in the mapping. For example, that can be applicable for Active Directory to HelloID, but you also will be able to use this for other types of mapping, like OpenID or SAML. The next one is the Idp Adfs Identifier. It used to be the UPN, but now we have changed this to the SID. That was already being used in the documentation, but now we also have included that in the standard mapping. We are able to hide application templates from the catalog. You don't really see this functionality, but it's helpful for us to clean up not used applications in our multi-tenant environment. Again, you don't see this functionality, but it will definitely help us to clean up the SSO catalog. Next thing is that we have the option to push HelloID group information, and that of course can be HelloID groups, but also AD groups to target OpenID applications. And I will demo this functionality shortly. We have also added some reports. Now you can see, because some are for one of our customers or a couple of customers who are asking for that you can pass, that you can find which users get which application via what groups. And these reports help you to transfer this from users to groups to applications, because SSO applications are tied to a group, and then you like to see that relationship. But I will show you that report in the demo. Also, we have the option now to disable the default email that's being sent out of the server request as part of the service automation. Now, every time an email is automatically being sent, you cannot turn it on and off, but now you can disable that functionality. This is the first step in including more components in service automation and making them more advanced. Is that we have added the grip component. Today is relatively simple because it's with static JSON data, and I will demo you later on how this looks like. Now we have also the option to have a drop-down component, where we actually extended the drop-down component with HelloID group information. Those are HelloID groups, but they can also be AD groups. Last item on the list is the deny and approval comments are now also being included in the default emails sent to the requester or to the manager. So let me demo the software, the new functionality that we have released. First, I'd like to go to docs.helloid.com just to emphasize that all the information that we have published with features and the changelog about releases that we do is in this section. Also, this webinar will be recorded and will be published on this doc site as well. Also interesting to see is that we have a published roadmap, and that you can also see the things that we are going to discuss today is on here, and also the new stuff that will be coming in July will be here on as well. It's not completely updated yet, but it will be in the coming days or weeks. Okay, so let me demo the new functionality. We'll log in as an administrator, and first we'll show you the new mapping. That you have the encoding base 64. I can show you that here. I just take the Active Directory mapping to HelloID, and if you change the mapping here, and you can click here, now it's none, but I can do the encode or decode to base 64. This is basically the place where you do that, and you can use that for, well, this is the Active Directory to HelloID, but you can use this in all the mappings that are available. So let me show you how you can pass information to a target application. And I will use our demo OpenID for this. And now all the group members or memberships that I'm member of as an administrator will be passed to this demo OpenID application. And I can show that here in the claim, that these are all the groups that I'm member of as an administrator. So this information is variable. Of course, it depends on which groups I'm member of, and it will, of course, be different per user. I also would like to briefly show you the new reports, and of course, it needs to be configured and tied to a user. And the name is an HelloID report user to applications. I look up a user, I look up myself, and here if I click on this group, I automatically can see that these applications are tied to this group. If I select a more global group like users, there are a lot more applications tied to this group. As I shared sign-in, I can see that these member of all these different groups, and I can see how that correspond or relate to the SSO applications that are tied to the group, in the end to the user. Straightforward, simple report. Let me show you the forms. I think that's an interesting new addition to the functionality of the product. So let me create a form, grid, and groups. And so this one is new grid. Let's only do it once. And here is the drop down. That one was already available, but we made some changes to it. That you hear, this is new. So I can select data from an API, and now I want to use the HelloID groups. And perhaps change select a group. Alright, so now you can see that I can select a group from HelloID. You cannot filter it yet, that will be in the next release. So this will be a list on all the groups that are available in HelloID, that are HelloID groups, but also AD groups. This is the grid, that one is also new. Now it's still static. This is the JSON information. If I would like to change the grid, I need to change that in this area. So suppose I want to add the color. I can say color black. There we go. Just make it all black. I add a new item here, color. And here you can see that I have added the new color. And if I switch here, I can actually make a selection, clean, search for a group, this group, and if I submit, you can see that here the grid is being selected with the selected information, and here is all the group information. Okay, so these are the new changes or new components or changes to the components in the service automation section. Okay, I'd like to demo provisioning. Before I continue, I think it's good to empathize that the grid now is still static, but in the next release for the coming sprint is that we have this also dynamic, so you can load that information from the network and for example create a grid on user information or SQL information, so you can load information from the network. Now it's still static, but then you can make it dynamic. Okay, let's go to provisioning. And provisioning, we already had a big chunk finished by the end of last year, but we did a complete redesign that took us quite some number of months, a substantial effort, but it is completely redesigned. And we actually basically took provisioning and access governance together. The thing which you see now is not being available yet. There's not available in preview or in production. It will be available. That will take another couple of months. The thing what I'm going to show you is a preview environment and to show you where we are today. So remember, it's not available in preview or in production, and that will be available in a couple of months. After this demo, I will go back to the PowerPoint presentation and give you a global overview on what we're going to do the coming months. Okay, so I'm very, very excited about this new setup for provisioning. It's very strong, very powerful, and we're actually using all our knowledge and expertise we have built up with Umra and IAM, and we have put that in HelloID. Okay, so let me give you a brief overview on how this works. I think what you can do, I'm actually here, provisioning integration. You can add source systems, and you can see that it is being imported in HelloID, in the HelloID vault. And I can see here the people that are being imported. The next thing I can do is define target systems. The target system that is available now is Azure, and I can configure the Azure connection. So Azure in this particular case is a target connector. I'm here, target system. I can specify the generic connection string, but I can also say set the account settings. This is basically the mapping from the HelloID vault to a target system, in this case the Azure AD. And all these fields are basically selection fields from the HelloID vault information. Okay, the next thing what I like to do is to say I want to have provisioning rules. So based upon information from the HR system that's leading to the HelloID vault, I can set rules. So basically here I set that if somebody is member of the automotive department, then something will happen. So there's one condition and one entitlement. What will happen, you can see that here. And I made a change that it is test. So let me change this back to automotive. See here, so there's nobody working on the test department. But if I set this to automotive, you can actually see that two people match that criteria. And what will happen is that the entitlement, so if this condition is true, that's true for these two people, then this entitlement will be given. It's basically an Azure AD account. So here I can see Heidi Schoen. And let me go to Schoen. I actually already did that. Heidi Schoen does not exist in the Active Directory yet, so I need to do a sync first. Okay, so this has not been synced yet, so I can go to the evaluation overview and then start the evaluation. Need to save first, of course. Now I start the evaluation. And now it's completed. I can also see here that 2 people match that criteria, that condition that I've set here. So basically 2 people are part of the automotive department. You can see that here. So it's Heidi Schoen, that's the same as I just said, saw on the right hand. So let me go to the Active Directory, to Azure AD. And there she is. Now she has been created by HelloID. What I could do is I can change this back to test. Let's see what happens here. So nobody is matching that criteria. Just save. I rerun the evaluation. And now you can see nobody is matching a rule in HelloID. That basically means that that account will be deleted because it's not being matched by a criteria anymore. So now this account should be removed. So let me refresh. So you can see that it doesn't exist anymore. So this is the provisioning. This is how the GUI looks like. You can see that it's we have we can provision from the HR system to the Azure environment. So the whole line of provisioning is already set in place. We're still missing a lot of functionality, and I will show you in the PowerPoint presentation on stuff that we need to do. I'm first going to cover access management and service automation, but then I will show you the provisioning part. So let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So I have been discussing the release in June, showed you parts of the functionality. I also showed you the provisioning part that is not yet available, that will be coming in the coming months. The next part of the presentation, I'd like to give you a heads up on the global roadmap of the functionality that's coming for the coming 2 quarters, 5 to 6 months. Okay, first a very brief overview of what HelloID is access management, identity management. Access management I think you're all familiar with. For identity management we have basically 2 sections. That's service automation and provisioning. So the HelloID product, let me turn on the pointer, consists of 2 major parts, access management and identity management. Access management is this area, very familiar with single sign-on. That's available for a couple of years now. We have been working on service automation. We have stopped that for a couple of months, but we're actually picking it up again. I will show you today what we're going to do in the coming months. And of course we are very heavily working on provisioning. You can see that these are darker blue than this one. This means that provisioning is not finished yet, as I think we are all aware of. Okay, so let me show you the roadmap for the different items. So I'd like to cover access management, service automation and provisioning. Those are the 3 modules in HelloID. For access management, this is the stuff that we are going to focus upon. We're going to do a lot of little things too, but these are the major things that we're focusing on in the coming months. That's the multi-factor. And one of the bigger things is the push to verify app. That currently we have an app and that we're using the Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator, but then you have to retype the number. With the push to verify, you will get a notification on your phone and you only have to swipe or touch your phone, that message on your phone, and then you're authenticated. You don't have to retype that number. We're also going to support FIDO2 too. That's a common standard where a lot of multi-factors are complying to. We also going to give an option that an end user can choose which multi-factor he's going to use, because now you have SMS, email, Google Authenticator, the push to verify app, etc. There will be a lot of multi-factors available, and then you can configure that as an admin, but the end user can choose which multi-factor he is going to use. So for the coming months, we are heavily focusing upon this new functionality in access management, and of course it will be free available for all the users that are currently using this model. So it will be free of charge. The next thing that we're going to do is to add notifications, perhaps end of Q3, otherwise in Q4. And these are things like you are always using this laptop to log in, and now you're suddenly using a tablet. So you get a notification for that. Or you're using a different multi-factor device, so you will be notified. And this is primarily being meant for misuse. So suppose somebody else is using your account on a different device, you are going to be notified for that. If this is finished, and of course we're going to do a lot of other smaller things, but this is the main line for access management towards the end of the year. The next thing we're going to do in Q4 is that we're going to build and add context-aware authentication. That basically means that for example, that we have we're going to add something like a behavior analysis that's based on the context of the end user. So suppose the end user is always logging in on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday, but never on Wednesday, and suddenly starts logging in on Wednesday. That is strange and different behavior than detected before. It's based on the context that when somebody is logging in. So you could say that if somebody starts logging in on Wednesday, then you need to do step-up verification. Perhaps selecting a multi-factor to identify and prove that you are that particular person. It can also be referred to as risk-based authentication. So that will be added in Q4, and of course we will add a lot of these type of features. So this is for access management. Service automation, the other area in module in HelloID. I think I already mentioned it in the demo, but we also come to populate all our components with network data. Today that's not possible yet, apart from the users and the groups, but then you can, if you load a form, you can execute, for example, a PowerShell script or a task to retrieve information from a database, from the Active Directory, from Azure, anywhere you like, the status of an Azure machine, and you can load that information and show that in a form. That's so to populate, get data, and put it in a component. The next thing is that we're going to add is form wizards. Today a form is a single form, and then you can submit, and that's it. But then you can create multiple subforms. So you start with a form, for example, to select a user, then you click next, and then you can start editing the fields. You click next again, and then you need to confirm the changes you have made. And the next form is that you execute the changes you have made. So then you have a 3-step wizard form. That will be added as well. That I think will all be done in Q3, so that will be the coming months. If that all has been done, then we do task sequencing. So that basically means that today you have the execution of a form of service automation with the workflows and the design and all the stuff that we are currently already have in that module. But if you execute, then you most likely going to use a PowerShell script, because that's I think the best way to execute an action in the network. So there are tasks, but there are single tasks. You cannot combine them. You cannot use the output from a task in another task. For that function, that you need to wait until Q4 this year. You need to wait for task sequencing. So today you need to use PowerShell scripts. Not really the nicest way to do it, but it's definitely effective. Q4 this year it will be task sequencing. So you can put tasks in sequence. You can say which task needs to be done first, conditional. So if this task fails, I want to do another task behind it. Stuff like that. That is all task sequencing, and that will be by the end of the year. So service HelloID provisioning, the last model, and this is the last thing I'd like to present today, and then I want to move on to the questions. So this is what I just demoed you. I retrieved information from HR. There is a mapper available. I put it in the vault. These were the business rules or the condition, the automation, automotive department. And then I can create a user via the connector to Azure ID. I actually showed you this line. This is already available, not yet in production, but the functionality is finished. So what are we going to do in the coming months? What is actually missing in this functionality? This is going to be the next release. This is the 7 means July, and 8 is August. So in July and August, we will add this functionality. So then you have the mapper, which I think I already showed you, but that will be more sophisticated. And you can use naming convention. You can use a naming convention if there is a duplicate name that you can say, then I want to use an alternative name. That will be released July and August. It's currently not available, it will be added in these months. The GUI, there is a mapper available, the functionality is available, but now it's still in JSON and JavaScript. In August there will be a very nice graphical mapper to map that information from an HR source to the HelloID vault. In September we're going to add the correlation or the linking of existing accounts to the HelloID vault. And you're going to need that if you have already an active Active Directory or an Azure environment with a lot of users already presently available in the network, and then you want to correlate, you want to link existing accounts to the HelloID vault. And we're going to release that in September. Functionality already available, but a GUI is still missing. You have a browser, a graphical interface on the changes that happened in the vault. So you can browse, you can see the history of in-person events in the past. Another, this is still part of September. Now you can set entitlements to users. I just showed you that for the Azure user account, but then you can also do it for groups. That's also part of September. You can also retry actions. That also will be in September, and I think this is going to be one of the bigger changes that you can do it to Azure, but then you can use the agent technology and you can also use that on premise. That will be, I'm not too sure if you're going to make this because this is a rather bigger change. Perhaps it will drip over to October, but this means that it will be a connector to provision users on your on-premise environment. I think till now, because this will be November, is that this functionality will basically will be all available in production by the end of September. Perhaps it will be a little bit later, but then it will be October, and then you have an environment available for testing and proof of concept. I think it's a little bit too early to go straight into production, but it's definitely an environment that is available with all the functionality to really start seriously looking at provisioning in HelloID. I anticipate that we still need to do some work in October. If we have done that, then we will move on to another new functionality. So you can add multiple resources or sources, not only in HR but also planning or multiple HR systems. So those are multiple sources. And then you can also forecast the changes that will happen. So if you make changes here, then you can run a forecast option and see what the changes are going to be without actually executing them. Okay, so this was a long webinar. Thank you for your attention. It has been a while since we have done this. This is definitely going to do this now. From now on, we're going to do this again every month. And I will tell you about the functionality we have released, and we'll give you a heads up of the roadmap that is coming. Okay, as normal, I see that there are some questions. Jamie, can you give me the questions so I can answer them?
Hey, thanks for that, Sherrod. First question, does the group selector also support AD groups?
Yes, the drop-down group selector in Service Automation will support all the groups that are being imported and available in HelloID. So there are local HelloID groups, but also Active Directory groups, and they can be selected. They cannot be filtered yet. That will be the next release. But yes, they can. Both can be shown. Okay, thank you. What's the next question, Jamie?
Yeah. How solid is the roadmap for provisioning?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say pretty solid. 90% sure that we're going to make this roadmap. But we have burned ourselves a couple of times with the provisioning in HelloID, and we had made a serious delay in beginning of this year. However, today we are well prepared and well committed to achieve this deadline. So I do anticipate that the roadmap I presented today will be successful. Okay, thank you. Next question, Jamie.
All right, and Cheered, this looks like the final question. When will provisioning functionality be available in the HelloID production environment?
It will be available in October, but I think, as I said, that it will be for proof of concept and for testing purposes. We're not too sure that when you're really going to put it in production. Of course, it heavily depends on the configuration, but I anticipate that pretty soon after October you will be able to put it in production. However, then of course you will be one of the first customers that are going to use that functionality, and of course that must fit for purpose. So I would say it will be November, December this year, but that it's of course heavily dependable on the requirements and infrastructure that you're running. But I will keep you up to date for the coming months and keep you informed. Okay, Jamie, I see this was the last question. Thank you all for your attention and time, and well, please let us know if you have any comments or requests, and hopefully I will see you with the next webinar. Thank you and bye-bye.